Okay, we're going to start on our next note packet, 11-7, and we're continuing talking about intercepted arcs, and on all of these we're going to be looking for what the angle is. And you'll notice what's different on these than the last ones is this is not at the center of the circle, and it's not on the circle. And we are going to look at two different kinds here. We're going to look at ones where the two chords cross inside the circle, but not in the middle, or when the two come out and they cross and the vertex is outside. And these are actually pretty easy formulas to use. These are both 1/2. And if it's on the inside, I'm going to add up these arcs. So this is 1/2 x plus y. And if it's on the outside, it's 1/2 x minus y. And the one thing I do want to point out here is this is always the bigger one minus the smaller one. Because if I did the smaller one minus the bigger one, I would get a negative number. And it doesn't make any sense for this arc out here, this angle out here, to be a negative angle. So we're always just going to do the bigger one minus the smaller one whenever we're setting these up here. And then over here I say we actually have three kinds that we could have where they go on the outside. We could have two secants where they're both crossing at 2 points, like this. We could have two tangents. Remember, a tangent just touches at 1 point where it looks like this. Or we could have one where we have one tangent on this side and one secant on this side. The good news is, even though these three pictures look different, they all work with the same formula here where it's just a minus. So really all you have to look for is it inside or is it outside, which formula to use, but do recognize that this one might look three different ways there. So let's do some problems with this. So these first two are ones where it's these first row are all ones where it crosses inside. So these are all going to be ones where it's 1/2 x plus y. So it's 1/2. And then I just add up these two arcs on the outside. 202 plus 54. Plug that all in my calculator, and I get 128 for x. Now this next one, be careful and notice that this x is not in here. If I do these two angles here, it's going to give me this angle right here. I'm going to call this an A right there. It's going to find A for me. So when I do the formula, A equals 1/2 24 plus 32. And what I get is I get that A is equal to 28. This angle right here is 28, and how do I know this one on the other side is also 28? Well, those are vertical angles, so they're both 28. But that's not what it asked me for. It asked me for x. So now how do I get x? Well, this makes a straight line, so those two add up to 180. So now I need to do 180 minus 28 to find that x equals 152. And finally, I have one more like that, just so that we practice it one more time. This time it does tell me this is the diameter, so I could do this one just like I did that one, or I could say this is the diameter. So this side is 180, and I can find out 180 minus 38. This side is 142. And I can do the same thing on the other side. This is the diameter, so this is 180. Subtract 78, and I find this is 102. And now I can just go back to my regular formula because here's my two arcs and here's my angle. So x is equal to 1/2 of 142 plus 102. Calculate that and I get that x is 122. If I had worked this one the same way I worked this one, I would get exactly the same answer. So on that one you have options of how you want to do it. Okay, so now these rest of these are ones where the vertex is on the outside of the circle. So these are all going to be ones where I'm going to use the minus up here, this formula right here. And just remember it's always the big one minus the small one. So here it's going to be x equals 1/2 of 113 minus 23, and we get that this one is 45 degrees. The next one, it's kind of all turned around, but it's still this one minus that one. So 1/2 174 minus 98. And I find that x is 38 degrees. Now this one might look a little funny because they didn't make these lines keep going, but these are just tangent lines and they cross like this. and they just cut them off. They didn't have them keep going, but these are tangents that just touch in one place. And this time, they didn't tell me this half of it. So we have to figure out how to find that. Well, if I know this side over here, this part is 235, what I'm looking for is how much is this part on this side. Well, all the way around is 360, so if I subtract 360 minus 235, I find that this side here is 125. And now I can use my formula. 1/2 of 235 minus 125, and I get that x, or this angle I was looking for here, is 55. All right, the next one is a similar one. Once again, it's just touching here and here. This time they told me this side is 120, and I need to find the bigger side of it. So I'm going to do 360 minus 120. And find that this side here that I marked in pink is 240. Now I can use my formula 1/2 240 minus 120, and I find that angle 1 is 60 degrees. Okay, this next one, again, they didn't make this keep going, but really this is a tangent line that keeps going on this side. And they told me this side is 210 and this side is 280, so I can use my formula. And I find that this is 65 degrees. And finally this one, and this one you do have to be careful. Did they give me the two arcs I need? They gave me the 84, but they did not tell me how much this one is here. This one is not 52. The 52 is on the outside. So how are we going to figure that out? Well, notice that this goes right through the middle of the circle, so this side here is 180, and that whole side on that one is 180. So I can do 180 minus the 52 minus the 84 to find that this orange part right here is 44 degrees. So this part right here is 44 degrees. Now that I have that, now I can use my formula and do 1/2 84 minus 44, and I get that this x is equal to 20 degrees.